We're Cassie.
And Emily.
And this is Book Bits and Chill, a podcast where we talk about books, movies, and pop culture the way that you actually experience them.
This show is for type B readers, people who love stories but don't want the pressure, perfection, or the participation trophies.
Hit follow, grab a drink, and let's talk about it. Today's guest is responsible for a level of reader obsession that frankly needs to be studied.
The Poison Daughter is everywhere now. It's climbing the Kindle Unlimited charts. It's all over BookTok, and it's one of those books that people start just for a few chapters, and then suddenly it's 2 a.m. and their entire personality has changed.
We're talking tension. We're talking spice. We're talking characters that you maybe shouldn't love, but you absolutely do. This is the kind of book that creates group chat chaos, saves reading slumps, and has us creating very real attachments to fictional characters.
So naturally, we had to get the mind behind it all on the podcast. Sheila Masterson, welcome to Book Bits and Chill.
Woo! Oh my gosh.
So
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, we're so excited you're here. Sheila, we would love it if you could give it a quick introduction of yourself, of the books that you've written, of anything within your background that you'd like to share, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Sheila Masterson. I live just outside Philadelphia, and I've been writing like my whole life. You know, even when I was a kid, I was one of those kids always walking around with like a notebook and stuff. My mom just recently when I started writing, my mom gave me back this notebook of like a Goosebumps fan fiction. Like I was writing fan fiction before it was cool. I loved Goosebumps. I grew up reading a lot of horror, and I I was so excited to get it back. It's horrendous. I wrote it when I was like 8, guys. It's not good, but
that is impressive.
Yeah,
but
bless your mom for keeping that whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's she has like everything. It's crazy actually. So I grew up writing a lot, and then a couple years ago I was like, I'd only ever written short things. But it was like during the pandemic, and I was very like isolated and anxious, and I really needed like somewhere to put all of that energy. And so I was like, well, I don't want to be here. So what if I went to a fantasy world? And I had like recently gotten really into reading again. Like I was always a reader, but like in a big way with Romantasy, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And I had this idea to write, and I was like, well, I don't think I can write a book because I'd only ever written short stories at that point. And I was like, I'll just write until I like run out of story and just see what happens. And 4 books later, we had the Lost God series, which is my first series. And it turned out I could write a book poorly, but you know, it took like a while to edit it all and everything. Yeah. Exactly. And I now I'm so proud of it. Then like that version of it, I'm very happy was not published. Like this is why we edit. But I do love that world. So I started with the Lost God series, which is an epic romantasy series that follows a memory witch and her guardian who go on a quest to finish what is called the Gauntlet. It is a series of caves that, when completed, sort of create like this grimoire in the language of memory. And along the way, chaos ensues, which is why it's a 4-book series.
Of course.
So that is like a very that's for your, like, if you love a very angsty, epic romantasy series, that's like more your vibe. And then I have a standalone spinoff from that came out last year called A Legacy of Stars. And if you're familiar with L.J. Andrews' work, this is like a second generation, like a next gen standalone story set in the same world. And then Song of the Darkwood, which is a gothic fairy tale romantasy that is like a dark Red Riding Hood meets Hades and Persephone. And then, of course, the book I'm most known for, The Poison Daughter, which is a standalone dark romantasy that I like quite literally was like, am I gonna use a pen name for this? Like, you're really like getting into the deep end. I was like, this is probably as dark as I could go on this name, you know. So
on this name note.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, that's incredible. Sheila, you have range, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Like, being able to go from, just true romantasy to gothic romantasy to dark romantasy, like that's pretty impressive that you're able to take your brain into so many different places. And I love
Yeah.
the sound of all of it.
I think it's like the ADHD fixation. Like I'll get fixated on a specific thing and I'm like, okay, now I have to do this. Now I have to do
Yep.
this. And I always have
Hmm.
to do something like slightly different to stay
Hmm.
interested in what I'm doing. So
Yep.
I think that I think we have the neurodivergence to thank for that one.
I love
We
that.
love
And I
it.
I resonate with that very, very deeply. A new thing becomes my personality every single day. So
Yes.
I get that.
Yes.
So many readers also in Romantasy, I feel like had a similar journey to your writing experience where they were picking up books during COVID because they wanted escapism, and Romantasy is the perfect escapism. So I think people are right along with you on this journey.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And I always think of myself as a reader first. Like
Yeah.
I love being an author and I think like, write the book that you want to see in the world. I
Sure.
definitely think there's like truth to that. And the whole reason I started writing to begin with is the FMC and in the Lost God series is actually like if you were gonna take the two opposite ends of the spectrum of FMCs, you would have Harlow on one end and Cece on the exact other, like
Oh,
opposite
funny.
end. They're like so
I love
different.
that.
But I really wanted to read like an epic romantasy with more of a soft girl FMC because I felt like
Mm.
everybody was so like badass, and I was like, I
Yeah.
aspire to be like that, but like I will cry if the printer jams. So, and at the time that I was writing it, this was like the funniest part about writing it. At the time, I'm 40 now, but at the time I was writing it, I was still undiagnosed with ADHD and had
Yep.
basically like just kind of come around to realizing that that was like maybe something that had affected my life in a pretty drastic way.
Yeah.
And people were reading The Lost God and being like, I love the way you wrote Cece's neurodivergence. And I was like, yeah, totally intentional.
Yeah,
Totally
right.
intentional, guys. I was like, everybody doesn't feel this way. And then when I started medication, I was like, oh, everyone doesn't feel this way.
You were like, I was just writing a girl I related with. I had no idea this was
Right.
showing so much of me.
Everybody's like, why does she cry so much? I'm like, she's overstimulated, guys.
She's overwhelmed, okay? Give her a break.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I
They
love
say
that.
write what you know.
Yeah.
Life imitates art,
Yeah.
I feel
and
like
vice versa.
that really gets us into kind of our first section, Sheila. That was a good warm up to the vibe check, which is just like
Mhm.
learning more about you as a person and as a reader, because as you said, readers first. And these are
Yes.
supposed to be like rapid fire questions, just like to laugh and giggle. So try
Okay.
not to overthink it.
Okay.
But if you do, that's okay.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. Ready? What are you
Pick us
reading
up.
right now?
What am I reading right now? Oh
Uh-huh.
my gosh. I'm reading BK Borison's And Now Back to You.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
Um,
God. Cassie's
Sheila,
biggest
a
Cassie!
girl, I'm not a woman after my own heart.
I love it. I love it so much. I don't read a lot of contemporaries actually. But I love BK. I've like loved her since Love Life Farms. Like I just love her work
Uh,
so much.
yeah.
I just think she does such a good job of writing these like really strong emotional arcs, and that's what I always connect to. That's like what I
Yep.
love to write. So, I love those. And then I'm reading an early copy, not to brag, but I'm reading an early copy of Tethered by Elena Gallia, which was just
Ooh.
sort of like it's re-releasing traditionally published, and it's she's like aging it up a little. So it was, I
Oh.
think, like new adult or YA, and she's like aging it up to be like fully adult.
Oh wow.
So
Oh,
I'm reading the
okay.
new version of that. Yeah, which I'm very excited about. And if you are not familiar, it is like I love forced proximity. It's like one of my favorite
Oh yeah.
it's one of my favorite tropes. And in this book, essentially like there's this arranged marriage, and when they're doing the marriage bind, they accidentally mess it up so that they can't go more than, I think it's like 50 feet from each other or something. So they are like
No.
I
literally
love that.
in like the most specific forced proximity. And it is the best. I mean, like truly, it is as soon as I heard the concept of this book for the first time, I was like, she is a genius. This is
That is
so funny to
brilliant.
me.
That
So
is
yeah,
brilliant.
and I'm having a great time. So
That's
I usually have
amazing.
two different things going. So I'm listening to And Now Back to You, and I'm reading with my eyeballs,
There you go.
tethered.
All right. What was the last book you rated 5 stars?
Oh my God. I literally like looked before we got on because I knew I was gonna get asked and instantly forget what I just read.
It's okay, Sheila.
That
I
So
just
is
bad.
so
started.
relatable.
Yeah, I just started rating books in January 2026, so you're
It's
fine.
true.
Oh. It was Era of Illusion by Madeline Taylor.
Mm.
Which is
Ooh,
so
I haven't read
fabulous if you
that.
haven't read it.
Yes, we still need to read it. It's been on
Oh,
my
it's
list
so
for so
good.
long.
It's so
Okay.
good. And I was laughing because I was like, on paper, there like a lot of parallels between our two FMCs because they're both
Mm.
vigilantes, but
Yeah,
the actual stories are so like wildly different. So I it was a great time and also highly recommend on audio. It's excellent.
woo!
Okay. Wow, I love that part about Harlow, so I'm immediately adding to TBR.
Same.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Do
she has
you
very cool magic. So yeah.
Ooh,
I love this like women supporting women thing you're accidentally doing too. Like you're shouting out
yeah,
all
it's
the female
incredible.
authors and I love it.
Oh, I mean, you would be hard pressed to find to find a male author on my list. I'm not gonna lie. No offense to
Same.
men, but like, they have enough
Yeah.
things. They don't need my TBR also.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Okay, do you ever DNF books?
Yeah, sometimes. I definitely I have let's see. I'm trying to think. I think there are some times where I'm like I DNF for now where I'm like, okay, I'm very much a mood reader and if I start a
Mm,
book and I'm like this is not quite hitting in the way I was thinking and sometimes I think that happens because the marketing is a little different than it should like than what
Yeah.
the actual book is and so when I
Yeah.
get into the
yeah.
book I'm like this is not the right vibe for how I'm feeling. And then sometimes because like I start something when I'm in one mood, like you were talking about like what phase are you, what menstrual phase are
Cycles.
you in? I think like
Yes.
I start
Yes.
What
something
phase
in
are you
one mood
in?
and then I'm like, well, I think I'm just a bitch this week, so I'm not going to read this book because it's not the
Oh
right
We
my
thing.
God.
literally have just been talking about that in the last couple of months because we were like, why do we not cycle sync our reads? Like, we cycle sync our nutrition, our fitness, all of these things, but we don't do that with our reading. And I'm like, if we did that, I would be rating books so much more just in a
Yes.
true way. Like, and maybe that is the
Yes.
definition of mood reading. I don't know. But when
Yeah.
I read books, when I am in my luteal phase, I'm like, that is just another state of mind that like no one wants to be a part of.
Oh
It
my
It's
is
God.
like
scary.
it's like an entity. I know. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know what is happening.
Yes.
Reading Poison Daughter while I was ovulating, and I literally,
We both were.
I was like, unwell.
No, it's
I
true.
listen, I will save certain scenes until I'm ovulating, and then when I go back and read it later, I described this to when I started working with my one critique partner, I wrote open door scenes, but she did not, and she was like, "I just don't think I could
Mm,
ever do it." And I was telling her that like sometimes when I go back and read those scenes, it's like I wasn't even there, and
yeah.
I think it's because I'm very like character focused, so I'm very much like thinking about what's going on in the character's head in this part. So it's like I'm very locked in. And then
Yeah.
later when I go back and read it as like the person editing it, I'm like, who
Who
wrote?
was she?
Yes, like,
Who was
I was
that
not
person?
even present for this. Yeah.
No,
She was
we
like,
actually
my friend was like, I don't. She's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then she finally wrote an open door scene. She's like, I know what you mean now. And I was like, I
Yeah.
told you. I was like, it's literally like I like block it out of my mind.
it's a different state of mind entirely. But Em and I were both ovulating actually. And I remember being like feral over Henry. It's like, I know I would be this way no matter what time of the month it was, but I love that it's this time.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay, speaking of Henry,
Yes.
who was your first book boyfriend ever?
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is such a good question.
I know it's hard.
I know this is really hard. Actually, do you know a book I love that like nobody talks about?
Which
Is
one?
it's actually YA. It's Lore by Alexandra Bracken. And
I
Mm,
literally have that on my shelf and I haven't read it.
it's so good. It's so good. It's like very it doesn't feel YA, like, the characters are a little older. Like, now we would probably classify it as new adult, I would think,
Yeah.
like,
mm,
because 'cause they're a little bit older and they're a little more mature. Um, but it is like this it's in contemporary New York, and there's basically, like, these secret societies that still worship the Greek gods, and the
that
love
is so
interest in that
interesting.
book is the FMC's childhood best friend that she thought died. and
Oh,
Mm.
learns very quickly. I'm not spoiling anything. You find this out like I think like the first chapter or something that
Love
he
that.
is not gone, and I really really liked him as a character. Because she's
Wow.
very badass, but he is sort of like I just like kind of love like a sort of pathetic like softer boy. Like my friend Gretchen Palafox will always say, I think that an MMC should be a little bit pathetic. I think it's important for an MMC to be a little pathetic, and I was like, yes, fully agree. I do love like
Agreed.
I do love a pathetic man. What can I
You
say?
know you know what? Write the world you wanna live in. I couldn't support that more.
Exactly.
that is
Exactly.
so funny. Okay, well, while we're bringing up book boyfriends and Henry, I think this is a perfect time to switch to talking about the poisoned daughter. And
Yes.
we have to tell our audience there could be light spoilers starting now. So if you're just starting your Sheila Masterson journey, save this video for later and come back. But we need to talk about the spicy romance.
And this is definitely one I know that some people are like, "No, I like spoilers." This is definitely one where you really don't want spoilers, even if you
Yeah.
normally do. I promise.
Yes.
I understand spoiler culture, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree that the surprises in the book really took me by surprise, and I think we would be remiss if we were ruining that for people. So we'll
Agreed.
keep it
Agreed.
as light as possible.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
So, kick it off.
I actually gasped out loud when we found out that Harlow's power was a poison kiss. And I'm like a big fairy tale girl, so I immediately was like, oh my gosh, this is like the exact opposite of all those damsels in distress that got saved by like first love's kiss. Am I completely off track with that? Like, did I make that up in my mind or do you relate at all?
No, I totally do. A lot of what I was thinking about in writing Harlow was sort of the way that I think culturally we expect women to absorb a lot of bad behavior, like a lot of
Mm,
poison, like a lot of things. And I was thinking about how all of that like manifests in women having like more autoimmune disease and like all of
yeah.
these other things. And we're only now like realizing how much it affects women and their health and their mental health and like all of that. And
Yeah.
and so I was thinking a lot about how much like how many things in everyday life require women to be uncomfortable and just sort of like absorb things. Like
Right.
even like in corporate America, like all over the place, like you it's just like impossible to escape it. And
Yeah.
so that's like one of the things that I was thinking about in a big way, but I definitely did have I wanted it to feel a little bit like a dark fairy tale where she's very clearly not waiting around for anyone to to save her for sure. But
Right.
also, um, I also wanted it to be sort of like a commentary on like intimacy because for her, she is like experienced, like she's had multiple partners, she's
Yeah.
older, but she has not had the intimacy of kissing someone, which if you are
Yeah.
not used to it, like it is very intimate to like kiss
Yeah.
someone. And we kind of take it for granted because that's like where we start. But if you had never kissed anyone without them
Right.
dying immediately, it would be so jarring to like kiss
Right.
someone and have them not die and then like have your first makeout session essentially at like 30
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah. I loved that aspect of it, by the way, particularly I think in the romantasy genre, we don't get a lot of older, I say that in air quotes, FMCs, older meaning above like 21. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I loved that Harlow was 30 and that Henry was also in his 30s. But I did love that aspect of it of like, you could be in your 30s or even your 40s and 50s, and you can still have these new experiences with
Yes.
intimacy, no matter
Yeah.
what. And I love that she kind of evolved in that way and had to grow in that way in her character arc because it just felt so relatable.
I think there are like multiple like comings of age. Like I think we
Yeah.
say coming of age and we mean like, becoming an adult, but I think there's sort of like there's this moment, there's that coming of age, but then I also think there's something that happens in your like mid 20s where you're sort of out on your own and you have enough freedom to like get into trouble and but
Yeah.
you haven't been like humbled by the world
Mm-hmm.
and you're sort
27.
of like yeah, you're like kind of figuring out where you are, like with your friend group and stuff, and like where your place is, and maybe you're finding a relationship. And then there's this thing that happens in your 30s where you're sort of like in a different stage of life where maybe you are married or having kids, or like
Sure.
you kind of come into this other stage where I feel like I felt like in my 30s, like I had a lot of stuff happen in my 30s,
Yeah.
um and I felt like the most like myself, like the most confident, the most sure of who I was as a
Yeah.
person. Um, and I was like, it's so weird that we like consider coming of age to be before this, because I think
Right.
first of all, you probably need a fully developed frontal lobe to figure out like who you actually are. So maybe
There
a
is
little bit
that.
older.
Yep.
But it's also like who you are in the world, like when you actually have the power to be who you want. I think when you're first starting out, like you have to take the
Yeah.
job that's available to you. You have to like date around a little bit. But like when you
Yeah.
get older, it's like you found the people that you really love, whether that's like, your found family, like your friend group, all of that stuff.
Right.
And you found like your priorities in life and stuff.
Totally.
And that's
Completely
when you
agree.
become an author or you start a book podcast.
Either one.
Exactly. Those are the only two
One
options,
of two
actually. Yeah,
directions.
for
When you
sure. For sure.
really come into yourself, yes.
Yep, yep. Otherwise, just but I love that, and I think the other piece that we really loved about the book and would love to talk more about is like I feel like when you get into your 30s and older, you do kind of get to understand a little bit more about yourself and the kinks that you might have, for example. And
Ooh.
so, like,
Yes.
I really loved in this book that how much you highlighted how much you can be experimental and try new things out while still being respected and feeling like you are being asked for consent and like it's like a very balanced partnership. And so, I really would love to understand if that's something that you consciously portrayed, particularly with the men in Mountain Haven. We were obsessed
Yeah.
with them.
Oh my God, the
Or
Mountain
did that?
Haven man.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, I really wanted, I knew that whoever Harlow was going to be with would have to be like pretty authoritative, like in some ways. Like she's never going like we all know who's wearing the pants, okay? Like
Right.
make no mistake there. That's very clear, but somebody who's not going to be like pushed around by her attitude. And so I'm like I think that it was in my head. I knew that he definitely needed to be firm about some things, but I also think that she needed that in like a safe way.
Yeah.
Um and she does need boundaries because she's trying to figure out basically the entire time like how far she can push him, and she's really made like a game of it. And I I definitely wanted there to be this idea that like she's in charge, and I
Yeah.
wanted that to be like very clear the whole time, because I think especially for people who have any kind of like developmental trauma or complex PTSD, there is this sense of if the first thing that you learn about the world is that the world isn't safe, which in her case makes a lot of sense with her
Mm.
background.
Yeah.
um Again, I'm like trying not to spoil anything. I think that it makes sense that she really kind of keeps everybody at an arm's length. And so I
Right.
think that for her, she really needed somebody who was going to make her feel like she was in charge,
Mm.
even like let her know that he was there and he is in charge, but that anything she says, like only what she wants is going to happen. And
Yeah.
I think that for someone who has never been able to control what happens to them, even down to like their marriage, you know what I mean?
Right.
He has pretty much every step of the way tried to set her up to know what to expect. So even in the library, when they're like sort of one upping each other and playing this game of like chicken,
Yeah.
um, he's trying to like intimidate her a little bit in the moment, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
what he's doing is telling her everything that's going to happen so she knows exactly what to expect, because he knows part of the reason she's acting like a wild animal is because she feels trapped. And so he's
Right.
trying to say, here's what to expect, this is what's going to happen, what are you comfortable with? And then
Yeah.
he says, well, show me what you like. And
Yep.
like I think she's like,
And
She's
then
like, "Oh,
like
oh,
okay,
I
yeah.
yeah, and I don't know we're talking about something serious right now, but I'm also just like blushing thinking about the wedding scenes and like literally giggling like a schoolgirl, which leads me to my question. So I know you said that you
Yeah.
write these scenes like from a very like character driven standpoint, but was there ever a time where you were writing and you were like, this is actually too much, I have to stop?
Um, Less so when I'm writing, because usually, like, in that, I'm more like, "Oh my gosh," but when I went back and was editing, I was like, "Good God." This is a lot. That scene, not as much, because I was like, that was something that I knew I wanted to have in there, but the, like, later scenes, I was like, "Sheila."
Did you cut anything out after you edited?
No, it mostly
Good.
just kind of, like, honed things in a little bit, but I was like, "Oh gosh, I don't know," and I really considered cutting out the Shane scene. I really considered it, because I was like, "This is."
I
I
am
was like,
I'm
that was a scene that I literally, this is what will happen to me. I will write a book and then I'll be like, "Oh, it's not that spicy." And then I will have to go back and, like, actually look at all the spice, and I'm like I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's just that one scene," because, like, there's always one that, like, sticks out in my mind more. In this one, I was like, "Oh, the ritual," and then, that one
Yeah,
later
yeah,
one.
yeah.
But then I was like, I literally put this scene completely out of my brain, and when I was rereading it, I was like, "Oh my god."
Sheila, I still to this day think about that scene fairly
Yeah.
regularly. So
I
I am so grateful that you did not cut it out. Me and my ovulation are very grateful that
Yeah.
you left it in that
I
It
book.
made me wonder if there's new things I could be interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was like when he's just, like, messing with both of them, I was like, "I am just this is, like, another level."
I
And when
mean,
he says, "Say my voice is beautiful, Shane," I was like,
yeah.
yeah. I was
Like,
literally rereading my own scene like this. I was like, "Oh
I
I mean,
think
my." Go
I
ahead,
was just
yes.
blown away by your ability to not only obviously like write what was happening, but then the dialogue just made it literally sent that scene into the stratosphere for me. Like those one-liners, I was just like, okay.
I
And then,
mean,
and then afterwards, I was just like, I don't know how to go back to being normal after this.
I'm telling you. And so I did think about it a lot, because I for me, like, consent is really important. I always work
Yeah.
with someone who, um, I've had things in other books where I've had, like, a sex therapist read them to say, like, "Hey,
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
did I represent this correctly? Am I missing anything?" And same with, like, the scenes in this book. Like, I was like, "Okay, this is, like, a very specific thing that we're doing, and I want to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm representing these kinks properly."
Yeah.
And so because this is definitely my kinkiest book. I mean, like, there are a few things in the other books, but, like, they're like, we're in shallow water in those books. This was like jumping into, like, the deep
Deep
end.
end, baby.
So I always want to be, like, very intentional about that. And so in all of those scenes, he gives her the option to, like, act like she's not choosing it, even though she is clearly. I mean, if she didn't want that, she could easily have done something to him. She knows how to
Yeah.
fight. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
Henry was paying 4D chess the entire time with Harlow, and it was
Yeah.
the best thing ever.
yeah, and he was having a great time. I was like, he really is. I don't know if you guys watch New Girl, but that scene
Oh,
where Nick
yeah.
Miller's like, "If you don't stop being so mean to me, I'm gonna
Yeah!
fall. Swear to God, I'm gonna fall in love with you." I was like, it's lit. I mean, she does not care the whole time, because as soon as the jig is up and he does not give her away in that first scene when he could, like, sell out that she tried to kill
Right.
him,
Yeah.
Right.
um she's like, "Oh, like, like, every time she's like, 'Oh, I got away with something,' it's like she wants to see how far she can push the boundary always." So, like,
Yep.
that's why she's like, "Well, this is just the starting place. I can do way worse," you know?
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with them. And although the spice was so good in this book, there was a lot of emotional depth also. And like a
Mhm.
big theme throughout the whole book was like grief and loss. And I like could not wait to talk to you about like why that was so important to include and like why you felt like it was the story to like talk about all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking a lot. I mean, I always write some element of feminine rage, because like, frankly, I think a lot of women are very angry right now, justifiably.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about, like, how angry she would have to be to literally be a serial killer. So I was like, what level of anger are we dealing with? And I was on this panel last year that was about fem rage, and we were kind of talking about all these different aspects of it. And one of the things that I love about it is that, like, rage is so unmasking in terms of
Sure.
emotions, and Harlow's such a hard person to get to know. Like, she is so guarded. And even Henry's like pretty protective, but like not as guarded as she is. And I think for her, I knew that we needed a couple of things that were going to kind of bring that guard down a little bit. And the anger is a big piece of it because you cannot be in a rage and be like hiding anything. Like, whatever is,
Right.
like, it's so, like, eye-opening, I think, in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, and then always it's protecting something, and so I was
Right.
like, "Okay, well, what is, like, this level of anger protecting?" And
Yeah.
so I thought a lot about how so often when you have that kind of rage, it's because there's something, like, very, very tender underneath,
Mm.
and I think it's, like, for her, it's, like, a lot of different griefs, like,
Right.
there's so many different things and so many things that I think she wishes were different, and she's never really had the opportunity to be anything other than like externally put together, like all of that stuff, and has had to hide so many other things that I was like, yeah, like you would be pretty angry. Like,
Yeah.
like I just I feel like that would be a huge part of it. And she hasn't really had space to ever process that stuff either.
Right.
So I knew that it was going to have to come out in some emotion that is easier for her to carry. And
Yeah.
that's just like the anger, you know?
I did love though, and I thought that this was so relatable, despite having, this kind of deep rage that, to your point, we all feel it, but there still was this overarching theme of like, no matter what, there was still this hope. Even when she thought
Mhm.
that she was being silly or stupid or whatever, she was like, I still was holding out hope for X, Y, and Z.
Oh God, why am I gonna
Yes.
Did
tear up? Why am I gonna tear up?
Oh god, I just loved that you incorporated that because we all need that, obviously, and I
Yeah.
was wondering if that was something that felt cathartic or healing to you as you were writing it, of, like, no matter how dark things can get, how bad things can get, there's always space for that hope, and there's always something at the end of the tunnel, and you are allowed to feel that, and you're allowed to look for that.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because, like, I think the past year especially, a lot of people have been feeling it, like, in such a big way, like, so many different types of grief, and hope is really the antidote to despair. Like, I
Yeah.
think of that, uh, Andrea Gibson poem, "Let your heart break so your spirit doesn't,"
Mm.
and it's, like, so short, but it's so profound, and I think it's sort of like there is this element of needing to believe that something can be better. My friend Divinity has the dedication for her book is something like, "You deserve to be loved before you're whole," and I thought that was such a succinct
Mm.
way to put it because
Yeah.
I think for Harlow, she has not really had. There's even a line in the book where she says, "I've seen good examples of love, but I've never seen a good example of someone loving me,"
Yeah.
and
Oh.
I think, like, she wants, like, you can tell that she wants it,
Right.
she's observing it, she sees it, it's clear that she loves Kellen, it's clear that she loves Adia, and that she, I think, like, can see it in other people, but doesn't really know what that would feel like, and so I
Yeah.
think for her, it's really, like, she needs to have some element of hope in there to believe that, like, something can be better in
I
the
have a I have a big sister, Sheila, and I just want you to know that I was really connected to Adia, and I'm just gonna leave that with you to think
I am
on.
too. I People are like, "Oh, are you?" I'm the oldest of four, so I have two sisters and a brother. And I somebody was like, Are you like the Harlow?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm definitely the Adia, like for
Oh
sure."
God!
Like for sure. I'm definitely the one that's having like all the conflict with our parent. Like I tell my siblings all the time, I'm like, "Well, I've put in my time, so you guys can
There
have
you
them when
go.
they're old and
Yeah.
stubborn." Because I had them when they were young and stubborn, and they had more energy then. So good luck.
You did such a good job at like voicing putting words to so many feelings I've had that I didn't even know I needed somebody to put words to. And something that Harlow suffers with in the book is these like sort of like health attacks. I don't know how you would put a word to it, but when you
Yeah.
were describing these attacks she had, they were literally the migraines I've suffered with for
Yep.
like 20 years that are so debilitating, and there's no way to explain them to anybody that's never had a migraine before. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, Sheila just put words to everything I've been needing for years.
Yeah, I've had migraines since like for as long as I can remember. So since I was like really young. And they are horrible. And it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really hard to put words to them. And I think some of it is like um there's this thing when like trauma happens in general where it shuts down the verbal processing part of your brain. And so you
Mm.
only kind of you get like all of these extra like survival things, like it'll send more adrenaline through your system so that like your muscles can fire faster and stuff like that.
Oh,
It's sort of like that fight or
Yeah.
flight kind of thing. And I do think that there is some element of that when you're having like a very bad episode of pain where it just becomes so difficult to find words in the moment because it feels like there's like nothing except this like one thing and it's like consuming everything else. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I really wanted to capture that, and I also really wanted to capture, like part of the reason I wrote in first person is because Harlow's very closed off, but also because I wanted the claustrophobia of feeling stuck in it with her, and
Yeah.
I think, I've been so, um, I don't know, like, just that part of the story was really important to me because it's just something that I've always dealt with, and I really wanted to write an FMC who was still strong, but, like,
Right.
experiences this because I think it can be it's really difficult. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even if you're used to it, it is, like, so hard to not feel all of the things that, like, she's sort of made to feel in the book
Yeah.
about having this weakness and it's not a weakness, like, it's just a thing that she deals with,
Right.
and it was
Yeah.
important to me that with their relationship that Henry does not treat her any differently.
Right.
And that's one of the big things is he in that moment, like he takes care of her, but like even when they're like laying on the bathroom floor, he's like still like teasing her a little bit and
Yeah.
even afterwards he's no different with her. And when
Yeah.
they get
Mhm.
back to there's this scene when they get back to Mountain Haven and he's, like, checking on her when they're at dinner, and he's like, "If you need to leave, like, we can leave whenever, just, like, let me know." And she's like she kinda, like, snaps at him, where she's like, "Stop babying me, like, I'm fine."
Right.
And he was like, I'm just letting you know that there's a way out so that you can keep your pride," because, like,
Yeah.
he understands that, like, she does not wanna be seen that way, and he doesn't see her that way, and that's
Yeah.
why he's like I think in that the best thing that someone can do is just treat you like you're not any different, acknowledge your pain, but not treat it
Yeah.
like it's any different. So,
Yeah.
I it was really important to me that he kind of just take that in stride, and I think he did a really good job, and
I
I think
agree.
it's hard, yeah.
It
I'm
is. It is.
definitely making all of the men in my life read this book so that they can act like
There you
Henry.
go. There you go.
That's right, that's right.
Speaking of their relationship, I would love to get into a lot of the character development that you did in this book
Yeah,
because I loved the fact that it is a dual POV book because to your point, like we get the first person perspective from not only Harlow but also Henry, which was amazing because you see how truly relatably well-rounded these characters are. Like they're initially not the most likable because they are super guarded and closed off and like they're not afraid to kind of show their teeth. But then like as you get further into the book and you understand their motivations, their hurts, all the things, it's like, oh, I love these people. So I would love to understand what draws you to writing characters like that? And do you feel like as readers we kind of secretly preferred when these characters are actually mostly unhinged?
yes, kind of, yeah. I think for me, what I really love about writing is I really like writing characters that are not all good or all bad. Like
Mhm.
even my villains, I try to have some redeemable qualities about. I mean, in this book is sort of an exception, but I also think it's sort of like the embodiment of like toxic masculinity. Is I'm fine with
Yeah.
that just being terrible, you know.
Yep.
Um so but in all of my books, I'm trying to think about like I want the characters to feel very real and like our friends, like people we know in our lives, like they are flawed and they can they contain all of these like contradictions. You know, they'll say they want one thing and then
Right.
when they're given it, they like panic and like don't know what to do with it. And so I really want them to feel like they walk off the page and have like a whole other life like after the story ends. And so um I don't like to have a lot of like manufactured external conflict. I like to try to create a lot of natural conflict just in personality and the way that they approach each other. And so I think there are a lot of parallels between both of them and their
Yeah.
backgrounds. And um, like sort of the fonts they have like similar grief, slightly different fonts,
Yeah.
and they both feel a lot of like this like drive to sort of like avenge in their own ways,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it was I really wanted them to have a lot in common so that it would be more difficult for them to keep that like that is my enemy. That is this person that
Yeah.
I hate. I can't understand anything about them. They're not relatable at all because it's in these moments of surprise, like when one of the characters surprises the other, that they
Right.
have to see them as human. And it's so like unexpected. And so
Mhm.
when there's that scene where they're in the well and she sort of like realizes very quickly, she's like very uncomfortable because he's not who she wanted him to be, to have a
Right.
very specific idea about him.
Yep.
And so she's every time she like learns something like that, she acts out because she needs to find a way to kind of like keep him at a distance still. So there
Yep.
is like a pattern of that through the book. And
Yeah.
I think that that's very human.
We were so obsessed with Henry and Harlow, obviously. Like, we could literally discuss them all day, every day. But there were also some really good side characters that came out of this. And
Yeah.
I did wonder at the end, are you leaving space for any spin offs, or am I just really hoping there's going to be one?
Oh,
Ooh.
you're not the only person to ask. I get this question a lot. And what I always tell people is I'm a discovery writer, so I'm more of an intuitive writer. I don't plot things, which people are like, "How did you write this book without plotting from the beginning?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like this is just
So
it's just the way
impressive.
that my brain is. It's like I get a little bit at a time and I just have to trust the process, which like when I get to the end is terrifying because I'm like, "Wow, I hope that makes sense."
Yeah.
Fair.
I send it to my critique partners and I'm like, "Have fun. It's your problem now." um but I was very relieved when I got this one back and they were like, no, it was like very coherent. The tweaks that I made to it in developmental editing were pretty small and more on like a scene level than like a greater arc level.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I have this thing that happens while I'm writing where I will put something in and I'll be like, I don't know why that's there, but I just, again, it's part of trusting the process that I'm like, well,
Ooh.
I guess I made that character for some reason. And then I will
True.
later get to a part of the story where I'm like, oh, that's why they're there. Like, okay, now I know how it connects. And it's such a weird thing to explain. Like, and I know even to a lot of my writer friends, they're like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. It's literally like I just can I think I just have a very pattern recognition brain. And so my
Yeah.
brain will be like, okay, we're gonna need something later. And I'm not even conscious of it. And
Yeah.
then
So did
so the
you
reason
save did you write one of the side characters in for another story?
so I
Ooh.
what I did was there were a few things that I left sort of open-ended at the end of the
Yeah.
book. None of like the primary threads. All of those are tied up, but there were sort of like some
There were
secondary
some loose
things.
threads.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did leave those, and I was like, "Huh, that's curious." Like, I don't know why. I don't know why, and I don't have, like, a firm idea, but I usually when that happens, it's because there's something else. So, an
Right.
example is I wrote Song of the Darkwood initially as a standalone, and it's much shorter than this book, as a standalone, and there were, like, 2 things that I wrote into it, and I was like, "Huh." I was like, "What's that about?" Because it was definitely a standalone.
Right.
Um, and I was like, I don't know why I wrote that way. And then later, when I had like a little space from the story, I was like, oh wait, I could do this. And I had like sort of another idea, and then I had a third idea based on like those 2 things that I sort of like left open. And I was like, oh weird, so weird how that happens. But I usually need to get something. It's like I've like 6 different books in my head right now. So it's like I
Wow.
have to get I have to get like one of them out, and then when I get to around 80% of a draft, something new will come in. So I'm always like
Wow.
waiting to see like what comes up around
Yeah.
around that world. So I never say never. I don't have like an exact idea of what it would be. I think that it probably would not be Henry and Harlow, which I'm like so sorry to say because they're very fun to write.
No, I'm okay
That's
with that.
fair. That's
But I
fair.
think that they like, I would have such a hard time finding a conflict between them
Yeah.
because I feel like they're pretty locked in right now.
Yes.
Um, and I wouldn't want it to feel like I would only want to put another book in this world if I felt like it could hold up to the original because I know that people hate when it feels like it's like a money grab or something, which I
Yeah.
would never do anyway because like it's just writing a book is so much work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like
Totally.
more efficient ways to grab money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
And
send
so
some brain waves towards you about who I hope it's
I'll
about.
I'll take
Brainwaves.
it.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of people have asked for, more about Bryce. So that's, like, the one that I get
Oh!
Yes,
most
that's what
often.
I want. Sheila, that's what I want.
That
The
that is what I get the
brainwaves
most.
are being spoken out loud now.
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of that, which I get, and I also love him. He's a very fun character,
Oh, he's the
and I
best.
would like to explore it. And I obviously I have some things in the world that I think I could play with, but I'm not sure like what it would look like, and so I gotta wait and see what my brain does.
I
Okay.
But what I
know.
can say is there's some extra bonus content coming um over the next few months. So that should be fun as
Ooh.
well, which
Oh,
if anybody has not read the bonus chapter linked in the back of the book, you should absolutely read it. It's
read
unhinged,
it.
and I can't believe that I wrote that. That is something that I was like, this would not have gone in the book. Mom, please don't read it. I actually asked
Another
my family
thing.
not to read the book, and they did not
Did
listen.
you?
Yeah.
No, they're
I
like, Sheila, we have to take in your art. You're like,
my they're so supportive and so great. And I made this video back before it came out that was like to my family on Reels that was like, I so appreciate your support. Please don't read this one. I need to be able to make eye contact with you after
Yeah.
this. And I thought that they had listened until until literally like a month ago. I have a lot of stuff going on in the back end, and I was telling my mom about something that I was really excited about, and she said something about the plot, and I was like, from the end of
you're
the
like,
book,
hold
and
on.
I was like, "Did you read it?" And she was like, and she made this face where she was like, and I was like, and she was like, "I thought you were joking," and I was like, "I was not joking.
No,
I
dead
was thinking this
serious.
whole time." I was like, "When did you read it?" So like she read it like when it came out. So like
But
at
did she
the
Oh,
like it?
holidays,
Did she
the end of the
enjoy the
year.
scenes?
Listen, my street team was immediately like, "What did she think of the chain scene?" I was like, "You guys are not supportive at all. Get
yeah.
out of here."
You're like, this is not supportive right now. But also, I bet she loved it. And maybe you
Yeah.
guys just won't
Listen,
ever have to talk about it. And that'll
she
be
goes,
it.
what I told her ahead of time was, I think this is a little violent for you because she like does not like violent
Mm,
things. And I was like, this
yeah.
one is pretty violent because she said like my other books are violent. I was like, oh mom. Oh mom, those are not violent.
Oh.
Um, this is violent. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
I was like, I genuinely don't know if you will like it, but she did like it, but
I bet
it
she
made
did.
me laugh because I was like, oh my God, mom,
You
why?
know, our relationships are constantly evolving with our parents. So I
Yes.
love that you guys hit this new milestone together, which, speaking of new milestones, you
Yeah.
just became a full-time author, which is so
I did.
exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
I know you just mentioned that you have some additional bonus content around the Poison Daughter coming out, but you also have the second book in the Fable Song series, The Ballad of the Heartless, that's coming out
Yes.
soon.
Yeah.
How is that going? Are you excited for it? If you can just give us a quick blurb on what's going on in your life outside of the Poison
Yeah.
Daughter.
So I've been sort of like swept up in Poison Daughter world. So
Fair.
I'm a little behind where I would like to be in it right now, but I'm still hoping to
Fair.
like make my goal date and everything. But Ballad of the Heartless is the second book in the series, and the way that I would describe that series is sort of like when you read a small town romance and you have the best friend from the first book is like the main character in the second book kind of thing. So there is a character that we meet in the first book who is good friends with the FMC, and he is the love interest in the second book.
Mm.
And that book is like a dark Snow White meets the myth of Cassandra. So
Okay.
Ooh.
so if you are familiar, Cassandra was the daughter of Priam, the king of Troy, so
Yep.
Helen's sister,
Mm-hmm.
and she was very beautiful also. And the god Apollo she was an oracle, and the god Apollo really wanted to sleep with her. And when she refused him, he cursed her so that she would have perfect foresight, but no one would ever believe her.
Yep.
And because, Apollo is just his father's son, just the worst.
The worst.
So
The worst.
I so I am working on this story, and that world it's sort of like the first book, Song of the Darkwood, is it's there's kind of this cultish religion that is going on. The girl is meant to be like a sacrifice to the god of
Ooh.
death.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't quite work out that way. And there are some like ripple effects from the end of that book that play into this book, which is 10 years later. And there's
Mm.
sort of this commentary on religion, like organized religion in general. But we kind of go from this world of like this polytheistic religion to like more of a monotheistic religion, which may or may not reflect, real religions, who can say. Um, However,
Fair.
there's a big witch trials vibe to this book. So
Ooh.
um, it opens with um, it opens with this spell for a broken heart where the Snow White character, her name's Winter, um, cuts out her heart so that she will never have a broken heart again because this
Oh,
man has
wow.
really just like destroyed her. And
Yeah.
so she wants to never feel that way again. And so she sort of cuts out her heart so that she will not feel things like so intensely. And so that's how the book starts. And then we kind of have like a little time jump. And they are trying to there is definitely an element of like revenge sort of playing into this too. I'm like,
Sure.
God, are all my books about revenge now? Sort of, sort of. But
Fair.
there's definitely this feeling of sort of the extraction of women's magic. Like you can use it as long as it's for like a man's gain kind of thing, as opposed
Yeah.
to just like having it for yourself or bringing it into the world. So I'm really enjoying it. It's not as dark as this. Those books are not quite as dark as this world.
That sounds
But
fantastic, though.
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
but
immediately am ready to read that. No pressure.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm
No
I'm very
pressure.
excited about it. And she also, I mean, not quite as as harsh as Harlow, but she's not really like nice. Like
I mean, she cut her
she
own heart out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
True. True.
Yeah, so there's definitely a little bit of that vibe. And when I say Snow White, I don't mean the Seven Dwarves Snow White.
Right.
I mean
The
more
Grimm
of like
brothers.
yeah, yeah, I mean like the darker feeling and the like Snow White, Rose Red Snow White. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Well, this is so exciting. And like said, I need to read this yesterday. We have, I know, discussed so much, and this has just been such a fantastic deep dive with you. And you are not just an incredible author, but an incredible person and woman, by
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way. Like the way that your characters make women like myself and like Emily feel
Oh
seen
my
and
God.
heard and known so deeply
Empowered.
is just empowered, is just has been the most incredible experience. So thank you for
Oh,
writing
thank
these
you.
books, for continuing to operate as you do. We really, really appreciate it. If there's anything that you want to leave our listeners with in terms of either new news that might be coming up or whatever that may be, please feel free to shout that out here. Otherwise, we'll continue to scream about all of your books from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did announce this week that my indie editions are coming down, so people can speculate what that might mean.
Oh my
Um,
god.
and that if you follow me on Instagram, which my Instagram is Sheila Reads and Writes, you can probably find out there or on my newsletter list, which you can subscribe on my website, which is SheilaMasterson.com, or through the link at the back of the book that you get the bonus chapter through is also my newsletter. Um, so there's definitely going to be, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of news coming up, like a lot of big
Yay!
news,
Yay,
which
Sheila!
I'm very, very excited about. And it has been I am one thing that people know about me is that I am a terrible secret keeper, and it's actually like torture to ask
Us
me to
too.
keep a secret about something. My own secrets, not other people's. Other
Yeah.
people's I'm a
Yeah.
vault. I'm like, what secret? I don't know
Of
anything. And
course.
never heard of
Yeah.
her. We're
Yeah.
not even friends. Um, I that's fine, but for stuff like this, it's literally been some of these things have been like months, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I'm like climbing the walls, just like
Oh,
dying to tell people. So I'm
so
very excited.
exciting.
I hope that one of the
So
announcements is an audio book so I can listen to the Shane scene on audio.
I
Oh, baby.
what I can say is an audiobook is definitely coming. That I am allowed to say, because that is the
Yay!
number one question that I get like 50 times a day. I'm like, I promise it's coming. I just can't say anything about it yet, but you will be very happy. I promise. So
I
yeah,
Woo!
cannot wait to have this book in my ears. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sheila, we are
so excited.
so excited for you. We cannot wait for your takeover of the world, Sheila
Mhm.
Supremacy. And again, you are just incredible. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And again, we're going to be cheering you on from here
Oh, thank you so much. This was so amazing, and I loved all of your questions. And thank you so much for having me.
anytime. But in the meantime, we'll see you same time, same place. Bring your blankets, bring your book boyfriends, and we'll see you then.
See ya.